Hey Tia, Lisa,
Good
Branson,
morning.
how y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Good
I'm good,
morning.
thanks.
Good.
Thanks. I don't know, it's too early, right? So far, so good. So let's see here. What am I doing? Okay. Show chat. Okay. All right, there. Hopefully I can keep up with chats today. I seem to be bad at chats. Hey, Kime.
Good morning, Dennis. I hope you're doing well.
Yeah. Any better, and I'd have to charge money.
I hear you. I hear you.
So I learned something about pecans the other day that I
Oh,
didn't know.
what's that?
Pecans have the highest oil content of any nut.
Really?
Yep, by quite a margin, actually.
Okay.
So if you try to make like a peanut butter out of pecans, it'll be a thin and runny almost no matter what you do,
Right.
which I didn't realize. So
Okay.
not that it doesn't matter to me. I just love pecans, so
Yeah.
uh, I survived the thin and runny. But
Just keep
I
pouring the
tried.
oil off the top.
Well, I tried. Have you ever heard of a company called Abby's Butter or Better Butter or something like that?
I
They're
have
out of
not.
Charlotte, and they make all kinds of nut butters: cashew, pecan, almond. No peanut butter, but all different kinds of nut butters. And they have one called date pecan that is just killer good, but
Oh,
it's very runny. And so I was just looking on their site, looking at reviews, and people were commenting that it tastes really good, but boy, is it thin and runny. And the person running the forum said it's because pecans have the highest oil content of any nut, unless you add some other thickener or whatever. That's just the way it is. It's not true with cashews. It's not true with almonds, apparently. So I just thought it was interesting.
yeah. No, that's a fun fact. Yeah. Good to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and it isn't like separated like it is in peanut butter where it sits like on top and you got to stir it. You can stir all you want. It's not going to change. It's going to stay exactly the same. So it is integrated, whatever the right word is, but
Yeah.
it's not free floating like it is in peanut butter.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
all right. So welcome, Sarah, everybody. Um, I've got we're going to do position your product. And I warn you, this guy cusses a lot, but he means well, and he just doesn't care. But at any rate, he doesn't care about his choice of language. And then at the end of this, we're also going to have a little segment on imposter syndrome, which is my little surprise subject here today, because I find that a lot of people suffer from that or deal with that or are aware of it. So we'll have a little TEDx talk that somebody did on imposter syndrome that I thought was pretty good and it may be helpful. So let me kick it off and see what this guy has to say.
I'm David Mandel. I am the founder and CEO of Pivot Desk. We help entrepreneurs find room to grow their businesses. We went through Techstars in 2012 here in Boulder, and have been busting our asses to try and grow the business ever since. Prior to doing startups, Pivot Desk was actually my fourth startup, but prior to doing startups, most of my career was actually marketing, PR, communications in Manhattan. A couple of agencies, worked for a couple of really big firms, a couple of really big clients. So I have some background in messaging, positioning, and pitching and that kind of thing. Now you guys, I know, haven't gotten deep into the pitch yet. Some of you probably think you're okay at it because we've gone through some mentor meetings and I've heard them, but trust me, you suck. And you suck just because no one's really told you the right way to pitch your business. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Inherent in the pitch is a lot of things that we'll get into. This is not just about pitching a demo day. And that's like the biggest point I want to make here, right? Like demo day is a single day event. what we're going to talk about today is how you're going to pitch your business for the rest of your career in this business. And I joke around a lot, but I'm actually dead serious. If you're the CEO or any senior executive at a startup, and someone breaks into your house or apartment at 3 in the morning, rests you up on the shoulders and says, "What do? You sit up and you pitch." Right? And if you can't do that, you don't have the pitch down. You will be so goddamn sick of this pitch, but that's okay. That's how it should be, because no one else has heard it. Right? You hear it over and over and over. But remember, you've got to get out of your own shorts. Right? People aren't here listening to you every day. They've never heard it. So you've got to have it down. It's got to be reactionary. It's got to be ingrained. And you've got to keep iterating on it. So it's a very, very important thing. And I'll get into some of the reasons why as we kind of go forward. So why is the pitch critical? The pitch does a couple of things for your business, right? And a lot of the feedback I get from Techstars companies when I talk to them earlier on the program is, I don't worry about my pitch yet. I got to grow my business. I got to hire a dev. I got to build out the database. I've got to find customers. I've got to show growth. Like, don't fucking bug me about the pitch yet. And you're missing a really big point. The pitch is critical because, by a show of hands here in this room, how many people have too much money? How many people have too many resources? How many people have too much time and just don't know what to do with it? Right? None of you. Every single one of you is resource constrained, money constrained, people constrained. The only real weapon you have is focus. Focusing everything you do have in one direction at one goal. Because as soon as you start spreading resources, you're wasting time, you're wasting money, you're losing ground in the fight. The first thing the pitch does is keep you and your entire company focused. By having a good pitch, which is clear about why you're doing what you're doing, where you're going, why people should care, why you're different, why you're better, everybody that comes into work that day at your company knows exactly why they're doing what they're doing, what they should be doing, and what the goal is. And if something comes up on the roadmap that isn't critical to that goal, they can make a decision and understand they shouldn't be wasting their time there. So the pitch is really important to keep you focused. The second thing it does is it helps you test your business. If you think you've nailed the pitch and no one's reacting, you haven't nailed the business. So you need to keep figuring out what's right and what's wrong. Right? So this is a lot more than getting up on stage and pitching at demo day. This is about keeping your business focused, moving forward in a very specific way, and helping you drive success in your company. Do we understand that? Because that's really important, because I always get, oh, don't bug me about the pitch. And then I sit down with the team, like, what do you guys do? It's like, oh, here's what we do, and we do this. And then I ask them, it's like, well, we kind of do this too, and like, we kind of do bullshit, right? You all have to be the same. And everyone in your company should know the pitch. Everyone. This is not just about the person that's pitching the business. So let's get into like the first big lesson about pitching in startups. And this, like, if you remember one thing from this talk, remember this. Nobody gives a shit what you do. You think it's really cool. You're in your office every day building shit and doing cool stuff. Nobody gives a shit what you do. They only care about how you're going to help them. And this is like, I can tell you 99.9% of the startups I talk to do this wrong. I said, hey, tell me about your business. It's like, well, we're a connected network of interplanetary, social, local, mobile applications that helps you evolve data from here to here. And I don't give a fuck. That's what you do. I don't care what you do. What I care about is how you're going to help me. Why are you going to make my life different? Don't ever tell me what you do. Tell me why I should care, and I'll give you an example. So Pivot Desk is a technology-enabled real estate platform that handles monthly financial and communication transactions between leaseholders and tenants. That's what we do. It's exactly what we do every day. How interesting is that? Someone asked me, what's Pivot Desk? Come on.
What's Pivot Desk?
Thanks for asking. Real estate is static. Businesses are dynamic. When you're out there busting your ass to build your business, the last thing you want to do is bet your business on a 5-year lease when you don't even know how big you're going to be 5 months from now. Pivot Desk helps you grow your business the way it should grow, not the way real estate dictates, by helping you either share your extra space with a company that needs it, or finding the right space for now without committing to a long-term lease. Understand the difference?
Again, I apologize for his language.
Nobody gives a shit what you do. They care about why you're going to make their life better. So inherent in that is emotion. Nobody buys because of logic. They buy because of emotion. They justify the purchase with logic. So start with emotion. If you cannot open up an emotional window in your target audience's mind, they will not care about you. What that does is gives you the permission to go deeper. You have to understand their pain. Really, businesses are built on pain and making pain go away. So until you can open that emotional window, understand their pain and understand what they're dealing with, they won't give you the permission to go deeper. Once they feel an emotional connection with what you're doing, then they're more than happy to say, okay, cool, tell me how that works. How do I do this? How do I get involved? Or how are you better than this? Right now you have an opportunity to talk more and to go deeper and to really connect with who your audience is. So like, I know the pain of my audience. We talked about the entrepreneurial pain just now, right? But there's a lot of other constituents in who we serve, right? There's brokers, there's landlords. I know every single one of their pain. And I know how to communicate with them. And I'll give you a great, like, real example that you'll get in a second. So we were invited, CBRE in LA hosted an event for all like real estate tech companies to come set up little booths, and then everyone had like a 90-second pitch to talk about what they were doing for all their brokers. And it was probably 60 or 70 brokers. And it was just a big line of CEOs like getting up and doing their 90-second pitch. And I was, I think, 14th or 15th in line. And you could tell, like, after the third or fourth person, every single broker in the audience was like this. Just sitting on their phone, doing their email, completely numb to what was going on. And I saw this, I'm like, oh, good, this is gonna suck. So I gotta like do something different. So I get up there, and before I start my pitch, say, hey, I'm David Mandel, I'm the CEO of Pivot Desk. I started Pivot Desk because I fucking hate real estate. Every single broker stood up, put their phone down, and started listening. I said, I hate real estate because it puts you between a rock and a hard place when you're trying to help customers. You spend your life stuck between a static infrastructure and dynamic companies and trying to fit those two together, not making anybody happy, struggling with both sides. What I want to do is give you a tool, a solution that lets you help your customers in a way that you become their partner, not a salesperson, and still helps you close the leases that your landlords are demanding. And then everybody listened. So you understand the difference of emotion? I went right for their pain point. I shocked them, and I went right for their pain point. And that's why they gave me the permission to talk more about what it is I do. Otherwise, no one, not a single person in that audience would have remembered who we were. Yes?
So really, you have a set of pitches that are context sensitive. So when you were talking about making sure everybody in your company knows your pitch, do they all have to have all of those and know when to use the right one? Or
I have one pitch. I start it a little differently based on who I'm talking to. But I know how you deal every day trying to help customers between it. That's why Pivot Desk works. We help companies grow their business the way it should grow. But so we go right into the same pitch every time. But think of it this way. You need one pitch that works for every audience. You may start it off slightly differently depending on who you're talking to, but it's the same damn pitch. And once you're finished, you can go in either direction you want. The pitch is all about connecting and getting the opportunity to say more.
So with your target and the different constituents, I guess obviously you were able to find a commonality between us poor bastards who are trying to rent space and the people who are trying to take our money.
Yeah. I could start without any different intro, regardless of who my audience is. And I do this often, like when I talk at either startup conferences or real estate conferences or broker, it's the same pitch. It works for every single one of them because they all understand the pain of the ecosystem that they live in. They have different motivations, and that's what I go to afterwards. But it's always the same pitch. So let's talk about the actual meat of how this works, right? So this is the positioning framework. Who's your target audience? What's their pain? What's your value prop? Who are your competitors? And what's your differentiation? You have to know these things about your business. You have to be able to very, very specifically define each of these things. And when I say specifically, I mean specifically. I talk to a lot of companies like, who's your target market? It's like, well, this is kind of cool for everyone. Like if you're trying to sell to everyone, you're not going to sell to anyone. You don't have the marketing budget, the bandwidth, the time to try and sell anything to everyone. Pick who they are. Understand their pain. Understand why they care, why they should care. What's your real value prop? Competitors. When I say competitors, it doesn't necessarily have to be another business that does what you do or close to what you do. Your competitors could be time on your phone. It could be hanging out with your kid. Like, what are the things distracting people, or what are the other things people will be doing except other than using your product or service? So understand what you're competing with and differentiation. Why are you better? Why should they care? So let's go actually think it through. So these are the sentences you should be writing. Once you get these down, this becomes your positioning. I don't mean verbatim, right? So you heard me talk about Pivot Desk before. I didn't say this, but all of this was in there, right? You have to know this first. So who's your target audience? Very
One possibility here is to take those points and put them in a sentence into the AI chatbot and see what it writes for you. You might be surprised. It might save you some time.
specifically, very specifically. Entrepreneurs trying to figure out where to put their business. Brokers trying to close deals for companies that they can't help or couldn't help before or are frustrated. Right? Very, very specific. Pain, don't want to commit to a long-term lease or are trying desperately to find a space that works for both their customer and their landlord. Tired of signing leases that aren't good for their business. Like, what is their specific pain that you're addressing? Value prop. We help you grow your business the way it should grow, not the way real estate dictates. We help you find solutions for customers you could never help before. We help you become their partner instead of a salesperson. As opposed to the traditional way, where you have to bet your business on a lease that you have no idea is right for your business, or you have to risk pissing off a customer or client because they end up in a bad lease, or you have to say no to somebody because you can't help them in the traditional option. We look at it differently. We provide a matching marketplace that helps you find space for companies that can't sign a lease yet, or helps you help your companies that signed a long-term lease and have no idea when they're going to need all of it by finding the right companies for them to share that space with. Right? And I'll go deeper, but you have to have these answers as specifically as possible to understand your business. If you can't answer any of these right now, you need to figure it out. Remember, this is not your pitch, but this is the basis, the framework, the whole foundation of your pitch. Until you know these things, you cannot get up and pitch well. Finally, this isn't easy. People want to do this quickly. They're going to leave this meeting and you're going to write your positioning down and you say, okay, I'm done. You're not. This takes a lot of work, a lot of iteration, a lot of testing. Once you think you have it down, start pitching people. See their reaction. Is it resonating with them? Is it clicking? Are you making your point, or are they left with a quizzical look on their face? Or do they say, oh, that's kind of cool, and then they walk away because they don't really give a shit. They just don't want to insult you. When they look at you when you pitch, are they saying, oh, I get that. That's very cool. Where do I learn more? How do I figure that out? Or I know someone that needs that. Right? That's the kind of reaction you need. And that comes from iteration. Continually practicing and changing. When we went through Techstars, I think we had, I don't know what the final count was, but somewhere around 80 different versions of our pitch before demo day. And it's changed since demo day. But I will never forget, and I'm good at this shit, right? I've done this before. It's still fucking hard, especially doing it for yourself. I can help anyone in this room like that. When I try and do it for myself, it's hard. Because you want to say everything, right? You want to talk about all the wonderful things you're doing. And you don't want to miss anything because you're not sure what thing is that's going to really matter. And you can't. It's all about simplicity. And simplicity is really complex, right? It takes getting rid of a lot of stuff, right? What's the really critical thing to say first? So you have the opportunity to say the rest. It is constant work, constant. And you should always be tweaking it and testing it and watching the emotion and seeing how people react and trying different things until you get it down. And once you get it down, you say it over and over and over. So at any point in time, you can launch into your pitch. I have keywords and phrases for my pitch that in any conversation launch me right into my pitch. Like I said when I started, if someone breaks into your house or apartment at 3 a.m, shakes your shoulders and says, what do? You sit up and you fucking pitch. That's your job. It's not optional. It's not something you can delegate. And you do it for the life of your company. I convinced one time the global CEO of Deloitte Consulting that this is how it worked. We were repositioning the whole company. I launched, for those of you who don't know, I actually launched the Deloitte Consulting brand in the mid-90s. I was their managing director of global communications. I was working with the global CEO. And I was walking him through this, and 3 weeks into it, he said, David, I am goddamn sick of it. I can't say it again. I said, Pat, I don't care. You have to keep saying it. Every phone call you have, every interview you have, every time you talk to your employees or your customers or anyone, you have to say it. And about 3 months in, he called me in. He had just finished an interview with the Journal or something. He looked at me and said, I think it's working. I said, it's just starting. He was like, but that's how it works.
So this is all in a wrapper called pitching, which is fine, but it's really beyond that, in my view. I think this is very clarifying internally to yourself and to what you're trying to do, and communicating to others is critical for your business success, whether it's investors, customers, retailers, et cetera. So I think that this sort of process can help you develop your internal dialogue, your internal view of what it is you're doing and why you're doing it. And I'm sorry he uses the word pitch because it comes across as very shallow and for a specific purpose, but it's really the first step in getting a real clear handle on what you're doing and why you're doing it. And I think that his little bullet points on there with the which I think are in the materials as well. What's the pain point of the customer? How does your solution solve it? It may not be, it may be, relatively small in the scale of things that people worry about, but everything works that way. People will not spend money unless they think it improves something that they're dealing with, some problem they're having, some opportunity they're having, however you want to look at it. So any thoughts on that from you all?
I always have an issue with that when people say I need to tell them what problem I'm solving with my business. I make gelato and sorbet. I give them a healthier, delicious alternative to regular ice cream, but is
That's
that really
great.
a problem?
Yeah, it is. I would take the devil's advocate against you here and say, the typical person is going to go buy ice cream because, the word gelato, what the hell is that, right? They don't even know what it is. But you just said it's a healthier alternative to ice cream. I think if you add to that, tastes
Delicious,
better,
more intense flavor.
tastes better, healthier
Right.
for you, right?
Right.
So
Mhm.
to me, that's a pretty big problem that you're solving. And I don't know how much ice cream is eaten by the American public, but I hate to, I think you could measure it in the tons.
It's a
So,
lot. I have the data.
yeah. So I think you're it's not true what you said. You do solve a big problem, and you can narrow it down further by saying, we find that people in North Carolina eat too much crappy ice cream, so we're here to solve that problem. As an example.
Right.
Don't want to use the word crappy because supposedly that's bad, but I personally think that sort of pithy comment really catches people attention. Just like he said in his video, he made all the real estate agents stand up because he F real estate, that kind of shocking statement. So yeah, I think your positioning statement or the problem you solve could be stated in a semi attention getting way.
Right.
Lisa, also, I think like adding a statistic is really interesting. Like, I'm pretty involved in a pitch club on Clubhouse, and he does like a 10-second pitch practice. And he's always honing in on like adding some kind of specific data. So it's like, did you know that X% of like people in the US are, have diabetes or are suffering from obesity or whatever the thing is you're getting at? Because that's a big problem. Like, I think it's all about like everyone deserves indulgent moments, right? And so are you looking for a better for you indulgent opportunity kind of thing? And I think that's the big problem that you and other brands are solving when we offer like healthier, better for you options to what's out there. But I think like just saying healthier is kind of too vague. But like really getting to the meat of like, what is it? I mean, for me, it's like alcohol free or refined sugar free, or just being specific, like empty calories aren't good for us. So those are just my thoughts, because I'm in a similar space of like offering better for you kind of disruptive products in a space that's typically dominated by like very sugary, high calorie kind of empty products.
Right. Good points.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to chime in?
I was just gonna ask Sarah, what's the name of that group on Clubhouse?
Oh yeah, his name is Pitch Freak. It's not, his real name's Antonio. He's based in the Bay Area, but every day at what time is it? It's in the startup club, I'm pretty sure. There's also a pitch club, and I think his rooms are at 1:30 Eastern time every day. Yeah, it's really good. There's also an investor room, networking and pitch on the weekends that I do.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to pivot and we're going to talk about imposter syndrome. We have had some folks in this class in the past who this was a really big issue, and I had kind of forgotten about that. So I ran across the video that we used for that class, and it's not real long, but it's really good, and it may be something that that folks here can relate to. We'll tee it up right now. Okay.
Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you think, I'm just not good enough to do the job at hand? I've got no idea what I'm doing, and I'm about to be exposed as a fraud. That people are on the verge of finding out you don't deserve any of your achievements. You're a phony. Maybe it happened to you on the first day of a new job that you weren't expecting to get. Maybe you've had a callback after a big audition. Maybe you've joined a knitting club and all you've managed to knit successfully is a wonky looking scarf. It could be that you've invited some friends round for dinner and you're not sure that your cooking skills are up to snuff. It can happen anywhere. This feeling has a name. It's imposter syndrome. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my battle with imposter syndrome, from the days where it used to completely cripple me to today, where I view it as my superpower. It's ironic talking about imposter syndrome in a situation like this, because let me tell you, standing here is a great way to get your imposter syndrome going, full speed. But because of some of the things I'm going to talk to you about, I'm not letting it stop me, and instead, it's firing me up, and it's making me more determined than ever. As we're talking about resilience today, I have to tell you, I still feel imposter syndrome. It's not something that you can get rid of, but you need to understand how to manage it. We are all up against enough external obstacles when it comes to succeeding in the workplace. If you're an ambitious person, things are going to get in your way all the time. But as soon as we start to do well, imposter syndrome sits there in our own minds and it says, you're not good enough. You don't deserve that. People are going to find you out. But we're not alone, people who feel like imposters. Some of the people that I look up to the most have told me stories about imposter syndrome. In fact, on my first date with my husband, we bonded over a shared disbelief that we were doing quite well in our careers. I sat across the table and I looked at this clearly very capable man who had earned his way into the job that he had through real means, and I thought, you're talking rubbish. But also, I feel like you understand me, and I understand you. It made me feel seen. And since then, I've had conversations with so many surprising people about their imposter syndrome. I'm talking bosses, relatives, friends, CEOs. I've heard it from public figures. Everyone feels this way, and it blows my mind every time. Why are these really capable people feeling like they don't deserve their success? Why are we all wasting our energy on something so silly? Now, there's one way outside of the workplace that I've found to make me feel like an imposter every time. And when I wanted to tackle fixing my imposter syndrome, I turned to this example. Let me introduce you to concert imposter syndrome. We're about to enter quite a lengthy analogy zone here, so bear with me. I'll paint you a picture. I am really excited because I've booked tickets to go and see one of my favourite bands in concert. I've loved this band for a while. Some of my favourite songs are their songs. I tell everyone I know the day before that I'm going to this concert. I arrive at the venue, I am buzzing. I can't wait. I find our seats. We've got incredible seats. I'm going to be able to see the whites of the lead singer's eyes as he's singing songs that I've heard for years. This is super exciting. I sit down. I sit through the support act. It's never the best bit. Clap politely. And then the band come on, and I lose it. We're immediately out of our seats. I'm jumping around, singing along. They've opened with some of their biggest hits. I know every word to these songs. These are the songs that are my favourite songs. I'm gesticulating wildly. I'm dancing terribly. I'm having a great time. And then they play one of their album tracks from one of their first albums. Now, I've heard this song before, but I don't know it very well. I can probably sing along to the chorus, definitely after a bit of practice, by the end of the song. But I'm not word perfect. And then another album track. I know this one even less. I look around me. I'm with the super fans. I got great seats. Everyone else knows every word. They're dancing away, gesticulating just as wildly as I was to the hits. The album tracks just keep coming. And every time it happens, I feel smaller and smaller, and I start noticing people around me. That woman over there, she's wearing a World Tour 2005 t-shirt. I hadn't heard of this band until 2010. That guy over there, just noticed the tattoo on his arm. That's the lead singer's face. These people are the real fans. I'm just a fraud. By the end of the concert, my bubble has burst. An event that I was really looking forward to has triggered my imposter syndrome, and it's made me feel like a fake fan. Now, hands up. I have felt like this at every concert that I've ever been to. I can't help it, but I hate it, and I needed to work out how to fix this problem. So, I'm an ex-philosophy student. I had to get analytical with this. The way I see it, there's 4 options. Option 1, perfection. I would have to learn every word to every song that every band I might ever want to see has ever recorded. Perfection sounds nice, right? I wouldn't mind being perfect. But then I started to dig into it a bit more. Now, I have some pretty diverse musical taste. But doing this would mean that I'd have to maintain a list of bands that I was able to go and see live, because heaven forbid I go and see a band and I don't know every word. I would have to spend hours upon hours learning lyrics, testing myself, going back and revising lyrics that I learned 6 months ago. I'd have to devote a lot of my spare time to it. And what am I going to do for leisure? I like to listen to music for fun. I'm not allowed to do that anymore. What's the point in listening to the Beatles when I'm never going to go and see them live? I've got to learn the lyrics to all of these current bands. Perfection sounds like a lot of work. I don't think it would make going to concerts fun, and I would end up with a very short list of bands. I need to find another option. I don't like feeling like a fake fan when I go to concerts. So I'll just stop going to concerts. Avoidance. I could watch live streams of concerts. I could watch recordings of old concerts. I could listen to CDs. What's the harm? Well, the harm is I'm completely avoiding the problem. And I like going to concerts. I want to be somewhere where there's the atmosphere. I'm in the same room with the band that I love. This doesn't really work for me. I don't want to avoid doing something that potentially I could really start to enjoy every moment of. My third option is acceptance. I could accept the status quo. I could feel the imposter syndrome, and I could go anyway. This is a problem I'm trying to avoid. This is where I've been for years. For years, I've been going to concerts. For years, I haven't known all the words, and for years, I felt like a fake fan. This is not an option for me. Option 4. What if I turned it all on its head? What if I embrace the experience, I enjoy myself, and I see it as an opportunity to learn? So I could look at concerts as a place where I'm incredibly lucky. I'm in a room with some very talented musicians who I've admired for years. They're singing songs that they wrote to me in the audience. I'm surrounded by their superfans. I'm watching a band who has superfans. I'm really lucky. And if I want to learn more about this band, is there a better place to do that than right here? If I hear a new song for the first time, played live by the people who wrote it, is there a better place to hear that song? This feels like it could be an opportunity for me to learn and to grow. My analogy's over. Thanks for sticking with me. So, how does this apply to the real world? Going through this exercise made me realise 2 things about my imposter syndrome. Number 1, if I feel like an imposter, it means that I care really deeply about doing well at something. And number 2, if I feel like an imposter, it means that I respect and admire the accomplishments of the people around me. So why do I feel fear when I feel imposter syndrome? That sounds like a very good thing to me. It was like a light went off in my head, and suddenly it all made sense. These people that I look up to them because they're talented. They're talented because they're passionate and they respect their peers. You're not innately born with all of your talents. These people have worked and they feel imposter syndrome because they respect the people around them and they're passionate. And suddenly, it started to feel like maybe I was quite good. Maybe this is my superpower. Maybe I feel like an imposter because I'm passionate about things. And maybe I feel like an imposter because I respect and admire the people who are around me. And I can use that experience to learn and to grow and to improve. It's a small switch, but if you can make that switch, you can take all of the fear out of your imposter syndrome. You can start to view it as your superpower. Thank you.
Okay. Don't go to concerts. That's my answer. No. How many have you all seen the movie Catch Me If You Can? It was a few years ago with Leonardo DiCaprio. Do you remember this? Do you remember the scene when he was sitting in the airplane cockpit dressed in a pilot's uniform?
Yeah.
Now, that's imposter syndrome. He really is an imposter, but he pulled it off, I think. For some reason, this reminded me of that. You want to see a real imposter? Watch that movie. That guy made quite a splash at one point in his life.
That and the movie Becoming Anna. Have you seen that?
I have
That's
not.
so good. So good.
It was good.
But the difference is like, don't you feel like those two people, like they were totally fake, but I feel like they didn't care. Like they were comfortable in their like
Right,
lying
exactly.
persona. I feel like imposter is like more like not feeling worthy or not feeling
Right.
good enough of achievement, which it all boils down to like an inner sense of worthiness, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's almost like we can't, it's almost like not being able to even step into the reality of like the success that we're experiencing.
Or waiting for it to fall apart at any moment. That's been my style over my working career. Like, oh my God, this is all going to end tomorrow. I have no idea why, but I'm sure of it.
I don't know if I've ever experienced it. I know I feel like I should be further, with everything I put into, my business and everything. I should be further along than I am.
Yeah. Oh, we'll cover that sometime too. Thank you all for coming today. That's all I have. If you have anything you want me to look at, a pitch deck, please don't hesitate to send it my way. I'll give you what you're paying for it. My opinion for what it's worth. I do have some relationships that might be helpful. And I've also lined up Andy Galinsky, who is a big time CPG investor. He was the guy who bought Burt's Bees when he was at Clorox. Just a wonderful guy. And some of you have seen his presentation. He's going to come on in March 1st. I think it's March 1st or March 2nd. And we're going to have class at 11 o'clock that day because he can't make it at 10 for a permanent thing he's got going on right now. So, but I'm working on some other speakers as well. Sarah, thank you for the connection with Kevin. I'm going to be talking to him this afternoon. I was going to invite him to talk to our group. I think that could be helpful. He's an Amazon. Well, among other things, he can help you get on Amazon with your store and your products. So I think that'll be an interesting conversation, assuming he wants to do it. I think he will.
He's cool. He also got us on Instacart, which it wasn't even on my radar. And we're now available. You have to have a store near you that sells the product for Instacart to pick it up. But we also received we're certified women owned. So we have an ad grant now with Instacart. It's like $1,500 a month. We get to use. Yeah. And that was just literally them saying like, Kevin was like, hey, you should just try. You have nothing to lose. There's no expense associated with it. And we sent in our certificate of, from WeBank and they just approved it. So, yeah.
That's great. That's great.
They also do like all digital marketing. They have a cartoonist on staff and they can do social media engagement too.
Wow. That's what I need.
Awesome.
Anyone else? Okay. Well, thanks everybody for coming, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.